Intelligence. Intelligence changes systematically with age. Our mental abilities typically grow until they peak around the age 20. With age, some of the functions decline, some slowly, some quite rapidly. Although some abilities actually increase until the 60s, the exercise of intelligence seems to prevent this decline in some individuals. Both hereditary and environmental factors contribute heavily to the intellectual development and the performance. Let's define intelligence. What is intelligence? Psychologists define intelligence in many different ways. Psychologists have attempted many times to come up with at least a simple definition that can make even a minority to agree, but to no avail. Both laymen and experts use widely varying definitions of intelligence. So some come up with solving problems, being able to adapt, quick thinking, quick learning, being creative, being smart, reasoning, logically being sensible, analytical qualities, and so on. Intelligence is described as the ability to solve problems, as a capacity to adapt and learn from experience. Intelligence, unlike height, weight, or age, cannot be directly seen or measured. We can only indirectly, by studying, comparing the intelligent acts that people perform. Now, Welcher defined intelligence as the aggregate or the global capacity of the individual to act purposefully, think rationally, and to deal effectively with his or her environment. There are some theories of intelligence. The topic of intelligence is one of the biggest and the most debated in psychology. The credit for creating interest in this field goes to Sir Francis Galton, who wanted to show that intelligence was inherited. Modern intelligence testing began with the work of Alfred Binet, who devised a scale to measure a child's mental age. The development of theories of intelligence and the development of measures or tests of intelligence moved hand in hand. Binet's development of the first test of intelligence paralleled Spearman's first systematic theory of intelligence. The earliest psychometric theories of intelligence by Spearman, Truston, and Guilford were based on factor analysis. What is factor analysis? A statistical procedure, and were based on the measurement issues. They were predominantly ability theories. They served two important purposes. First, they provided logical models of the structure of the human intellect. And second, they established that intelligence may be conceptualized as comprising many separate abilities that operate more or less independently. The new theoretical models of intelligence, such as those developed by Robert Sternberg and Howard Gardner, seek to understand intelligence as a process. Spearman's two-factor theory. The earliest empirical studies of general cognitive ability were conducted by Charles Spearman, who termed this general intelligence factor G, right? This was the first systematic theory of intelligence. Spearman developed his theory of intelligence by applying factor analysis, a statistical procedure to assess which of the many different intellectual skills and abilities demonstrated by individuals were related to each other. Based on the factor analysis, Spearman proposed that intelligence is made of two components. That is, a G factor, that is the general intelligence, and a collection of specific intellectual abilities that he labeled as S factor, right? So G factor refers to general intelligence, and S factor refers to specific abilities that are more useful than the others. Truston's theory of primary mental abilities. One of Spearman's strongest critics was psychologist Louis L. Trustman. Using factor analysis on a large number of subjects, he found no evidence for general intelligence ability as Spearman had proposed. Instead, he declared that human intelligence is a composite of 7 primary mental abilities, and he listed it in order. Those primary mental abilities. What are they? We have put this in the bullet points. Verbal comprehension, reasoning, perceptual speed, numerical ability, word fluency, associative memory, and spatial visualization, right? So most of it, almost all of it is self-explanatory, right? Now, Guilford's theory of intelligence, in an ambitious effort to isolate different kinds of intellectual attributes, J.P. Guilford proposed the structure of intellect model in 1955. He based on factor analysis. In Guilford's structure of intellect, all mental abilities are conceptualized within three-dimensional framework. There are three features of intellectual task: the content or the type of information, the product or the form in which information is represented, and operation or type of mental activity performed. So these are 5 into 6 into 6, that is 180 mental abilities that were listed below. 5 content dominations, that is the broad areas of information to which the human intellect applies operation, right? So he goes on listing out visual. What is visual? Information perceived through seeing, right? The next one is the auditory. What is auditory? Information perceived through hearing. Next, symbolic. What is symbolic? Information perceived as symbols or sizes or symbols or signs that stand for something else, like in the form of Arabic numerables, letters of an alphabet, musical and scientific notations. Number 4 is a semantic. What is semantic? Concerned with the verbal meaning and ideas. The last one is a behavioral, that is number 5. Information that is perceived as acts of people. Now, 6 products in increasing complexity. The units, single items of knowledge. Classes, a sets of units sharing common attributes. Relations, units linked as opposites or in association, sequence, or analogies. Systems, multiple relations interrelated to comprise structures of network. Transformation, changes, perspectives, conversations, or mutations to knowledge. Implications, predictions, inferences, consequences, or anticipations of knowledge. Okay. So these are all complex units. Let's move on to 6 operations, which are general intellectual processes. What are general intellectual processes? Cognition, right? That is the ability to understand, comprehend, discover, and become aware of the information, right? Directly related to our thought process and thinking process. Memory recording. What is memory recording? The ability to encode information, right? And the third one is memory retention. That is the ability to recall the information that is already been encoded. Divergent prediction, the ability to generate multiple solutions to a problem, which means creativity, right? Convergent prediction, what is it? The ability to deduce a single solution to a problem, rule following or problem solving. Evaluation, the ability to judge whether or not information is accurate, consistent, or valid, right? Gardner's theory of multiple intelligence. Harvard University's Howard Gardner, right, 1983, 1999, the 90s, outlined a view of human intelligence that reflects both his dissatisfaction with the idea that intelligence is a single trait that can be measured with an IQ test, and his belief that the factorial approach to describing the structure of human intellect fails to capture the complexity, diversity, and practicality of human intelligence. To reflect this diversity, Gardner proposed that humans have 8 kinds of intelligence which are independent of each other, right? So you'll see this multiple intelligence which is depicted in this diagram, right? Which has a heading naturalistic, right? Which comes naturally to the personality, like loving animals and plants, nature, understanding, natural world, like biological conservationist, right? Linguistic, the personality excels in words, language, poetry, poet, writers. Visual and spatial excels in shapes, designs, graphics, visualization, designer, engineer, right? Musical excels in performing and composing musical pieces, singer, musical composers, etc. Interpersonal ability to organize people, groups, and leaders, social workers, etc. This is interpersonal. This is intrapersonal, right? There is a difference. Ability to understand one's inner feelings, have self realization, to know about oneself. Philosopher, clergy. Clergy means religious people like priests, like gurus, they are all coming under clergy. Now, interpersonal is something related to that is right within ourselves, right? Where it helps you to explore your own self. Interpersonal is to do with others. Okay. Logical, excel in maths and logical thinking, right? Bankers, accountants, all these people will come under this category. Kinesthetic is excels in performing sports, physical activity, and bodybuilding movements, etc. Actors, athletes, all that. So this is the multiple intelligence proposed by Gardner. Components of successful functioning. Gardner stresses the importance of certain other components of successful functioning, components that are overlooked in more traditional definition. Yet, over the course of human history, Gardner reminds us skills such as bodily kinesthetic skill, interpersonal intelligence, musical ability probably had have more value in human culture than the types of verbal, mathematical, or spatial abilities that are commonly equated with intelligence. Let's understand the concept of IQ. An intelligent quotient or IQ is a score derived from one of several different standardized tests designed to assess intelligence. The term IQ from the German intelligence quotient was devised by the German psychologist William Stern in 1912 as a proposed method of scoring children's intelligence tests, such as those developed by Alfred Binet and the Theodore Simon in the early 20th century. Louis Terman accepted that form of scoring, expressing a score as a quotient of mental age and chronological age for his revision of the Binet-Simon test, the first version of the standard Binet intelligence scales in 1916. This introduced the intelligence quotient and became the standard of comparison for subsequent intelligence tests. Although the term IQ is still in common use, the scoring of modern IQ tests, such as Welch's Adult Intelligence Scale, is now based on the standard scoring of the subject's rank order on the test item content with the medium score set to 100 and a standard deviation of 15. Although not all tests adhere to the assignment of 15, IQ points to each standard deviation, right? So here one thing we have to understand is there is a difference between the mental age and the chronological age. What is chronological age is mostly referred to the biological age, right? Mental age is referred to a, the standardized procedure that is used to test the IQ. A person's IQ score was originally calculated by dividing a person's mental age by their chronological age and then multiplied by 100. In other words, MA divided by CA into 100. That is mental age divided by chronological age divided by 100. Chronological age was simply the child's biological age or how old the child was, right? Whether the child is 8 years, 9 years, 10 years, or whatever, right? Mental age was first giving the child an intelligence test, seeing how they scored. This score was then compared with how other children did on the test. It was found that as children get older, the score on the test would improve. Mental age was then defined as the age at which a typical child exhibits a particular level of performance on the test. You look at this figure, it's a distribution of intelligence, right? So, all persons are not created equal, right? Humans differ greatly in many traits. Intelligence is also unequally distributed in the general population. Now, intelligent test scores follow an approximately normal distribution, meaning that most people score near the middle of the distribution of scores, and that scores drop off fairly rapidly in frequency as one moves in either direction from the center. The normal distribution of intelligence as measured by IQ, when plotted, shows a bell-shaped curve. The peak or average IQ score is 100. The range for average IQ is between 80 and 120. Most cases are clustered around the arbitrary average of 100 as most people have average intelligence. There are relatively few very bright or very dull persons. At the tail end of the normal curve lies the two extremes, that is intelligence. At the end are about 2% of the people below the IQ score of 70, right, who are mentally retarded. At the other end are 2% with IQ scores of above 130 who are intelligently gifted. Intelligent test. Now, intelligent test is measured by, intelligent test which yields an IQ score. Is measured by intelligent test which yields an IQ score. The first proper intelligent test was devised by Alfred Binet in 1905. The test identified children with below normal intelligence so that they could be given special educational facilities. The test led to the development of numerous larger tests. Among the best known of such tests are the Standard Binet test produced at Stanford University in 1960 by Louis Terman and the Welcher scale, which are also now used currently even in places like National Institute of Mental Handicap, like, it is now called as NIPID, National Institute of Person Empowered with Disability, right? Or maybe Swikar, Upkar, like so many other places where these IQ tests are conducted. These are the tests that are being used. Now, all these tests measure several aspects of intelligence. Many contain vocabulary tests, problem based on analogy, and tests to measure verbal ability. It is possible with most standardized tests to obtain several measures of an individual performance. The best known measure is IQ or intelligent quotient. The IQ is regarded as an overall measure of intellectual ability. To calculate the IQ, an individual test performance is compared against the score obtained by the other children of his or her age. The average score of an intelligence test is 100. Intelligence measurement serves several practical purposes. The scores on intelligence tests are used for diagnosis in education and clinical work, selection in education and industry, and for counseling and placement. Intelligence tests may be administered individually or in groups. They may be speed, that is time or power test, general ability or aptitude test, and verbal, non-verbal or performance tests. Types of intelligence tests. There are two, verbal scales and non-verbal scales. What are verbal scales? Verbal scales of intelligence rely largely on words. They usually consist of vocabulary items, verbal analogies, general knowledge, and so on. The Simon Binet test, the first intelligence test, is an example of a verbal test of intelligence. Because of the use of language, this type of test cannot be used with illiterates or people who do not speak English. They also tend to have cultural bias. Next, non-verbal scales. Non-verbal tests have been considered pure measures of general intelligence and are excellent indicators of abstract reasoning, particularly in visual spatial domain. These instruments have negligible ethnic biases. Non-verbal tests may be performance tests, which requires the subject to do something, that is, draw or solve or maze problems, or they may be paper and pencil tests, which provide printed non-verbal items and instruct the subject to select the best of the two or more multiple choices responses. Some non-verbal tests may be administered without using the language, without the use of knowledge. A performance scale test. What is a performance scale test? A performance scale attempts to overcome biases caused by language, culture, and education. Performance tests tend to require a longer interval of sustained effort, concentration, and attention than most verbal tasks. Therefore, they not only measure intelligence but provide the clinician with a rich opportunity to observe behavior in a standard setting. Individual versus group tests of intelligence. Intelligence tests can be given individually or to a group of people. The best known individual intelligence tests are the Binet and Simon scale, the standard Stanford Binet Intelligence Scale, and the Welch's Adult Intelligence Scale. The Binet Simon scale, the Alfred Binet and his colleague Theodore Simon devised this general test of mental ability, and it was revised later on in 1908 and 1911. The test yielded scores in terms of mental age. Mental age is the chronological age that we have already told in the previous slide that typically corresponds to a particular level of performance. Example, a 10-year-old child whose scores indicates a mental age of 12 perform like a typical 12-year-old, right? The, the standard Binet intelligence scale. In 1916, the Lewis Terminal and his colleague at Stanford University created Stanford Binet intelligence scale by expanding and revising the Binet-Simon scale. The standard, the Stanford Binet yielded score in terms of intelligent question, and the intelligent questions in the mental age were divided by the chronological age and multiplied the IQ score of the children. Welch's Adult Intelligence Scale. David Welcher published the first test for assessing intelligence in adults in 1939. The Welcher's Adult Intelligence Scale contains many items that assess non-verbal reasoning ability and therefore depends less on verbal ability than does the Stanford Binet. It also provides separate scores of verbal intelligence and non-verbal or performance intelligence as well as the score that indicates overall intelligence. Group IQ tests originated in the early 1900s in the USA with mass intelligence tests of the World War I recruits. Erkes and Otis developed two groups IQ tests. The Army Alpha test for recruits who could read and the Army Beta test for illiterate and non-English speaking subjects. The real value lay in the mass of data generated from approximately 3 million subjects. These tests were enormously helpful both as models for group intelligence tests and as an impetus to developing more effective tests. Okay, so with this, we close the unit 8 on thinking and intelligence, right? So we go on to the next unit. Okay. So if you are able to complete unit 8 and 9, then we have only one class, that is the next Sunday, which we can finish the 10 and 11. They are all personality theories. Okay. So let's move on to the next. Can you see the screen? Yes?
Yes, ma'am, it's visible.
Okay, great. Okay. So unit 9 is all about personality, right? So let's look at what are the objectives of this unit. The objective of this unit is to discuss the meaning and definition of personality, analyze the nature of personality, describe the concept of individual differences, and explain various factors influencing personality. Let's understand what personality is. The study of personality deals with the issue of human individuality, right? It has attracted the attention of a common man as well as the academic psychologists. The term persona was used to indicate the actions of an individual. In the modern world and psychology, it has come to indicate the sum total of an individual's characteristics and qualities. Various thinkers, social psychologists, and others have defined personality in various ways. Now, we ourselves talk about personality, when we, in a very casual manner also, we say, is this personality, is that personality, right? But let's look at the definition. Let's look at the definition by Child, right? It defined personality as the more or less stable internal factors that make one person's behavior consistent from time to time and different from the behavior other people would manifest in comparable situation. Okay, I think it is self-explanatory. He's talking about internal factors which the person displays, right, which is consistent from time to time. That means they are not, one day high, one day low, like that, but consistent, right, from time to time and different from the behavior other people would manifest in comparable situations. Second, according to Lundberg and others, the term personality refers to the habits, attitudes, and other social traits that are characteristics of a given individual's behavior. Number three, personality represents those structural and dynamic properties of an individual or individuals as they reflect themselves as in characteristic response to situation. This is the working definition of a personality given by Lawrence A. Pevin. Let's look at Gordon Allport. He defined personality as a dynamic organization within the individual of those psychophysical systems that determine his character, behavior, and thought, right? So when we are putting together, trying to understand all these definitions, some things are getting very common. That is attitude, behavior, thought processes, right? And then consistency as comparable to others. Also include traits and social traits. What is the nature of personality? Just give me 1 second. Just getting overcharged. 1 minute. Yes. What is the nature of personality? The term personality, therefore, explains both generality and individuality in behavior. Usually, a layman uses the term personality to describe the response or the behavior of a person. Adjectives, right, used like pleasant, honest, sociable, etc., are employed along with the term personality to describe the behavior of the person. Describes the person, the effect he or she has on others, the sociable personality, and sometimes even evaluated with qualities such as honesty, and then you can add on more qualities like trustworthy, or it could also be very gentle or generous, so many other things. Yeah. Let's look at the characteristics of personality. These are the characteristics and traits of a personality. Personality is something which is unique in each individual, which means it cannot be the same. The personality that I have need not be the same as the personality of my child, or the personality that you have need not be the same either among the family or their classmate. Okay, so that is the sense of uniqueness. Personality refers particularly to persistent qualities of an individual. The persistent qualities of the individuals means this individual has a tendency to repeat the same kind of a behavior, which are persistent. Like it is predictable, right? Sometimes you know that certain friends of yours have very predictable personalities, right? The way they're surprising, the way they come and talk to you, right? The way they wish you on your birthday, they have their unique style and some persistent qualities that is unique to themselves. Personality represents a dynamic orientation of organism to environment, right? So it depends on what kind of a orientation this person has, right? The kind of experience, the background the person comes from. Personality is greatly influenced by social interactions, right? It also depends by the kind of circle of friends that you have, the kind of movies that you watch, right? All this directly or indirectly influences us. Personality represents a unique organization of persistent, dynamic, and social predisposition, right? So, as an individual, you could have your unique traits, unique kind of qualities, right? And at the same time, those qualities, when it displayed in the social scenario, may slightly change, right? Predisposition, but more or less the personality remains the same. The personality has a structural and a functional component, right? So it has a structural, right? Certain way it is structured in the person, and functional component. Because of that, certain traits, the person will function in a particular way. The personality of an individual as a totality and not divisible into units or parts. Okay. So when we are talking about the personality, we talk about the whole person. We don't talk about particular aspects of the person. The formation of individual's personality is influenced by a number of factors like hereditary, constitutional factors, social factors, cultural factors, and specific experiences. Childhood experiences play an important and a determining role in the formation of personality, right? How you are raised up as a child, no, will definitely have a influence on the personality. The kind of experiences that you have had, right? The personality of an individual can be described and measured. So we have all these personality tests, right? Which is very popular. You want to understand people, right? Especially if they find that their behavior is odd or not. Personality tests are used in order to diagnose, in order to help, right? So the personality of an individual has certain characteristics which he or she shares with others, and at the same time, certain other characteristics which are unique to him or her. Personality is dynamic. Dynamic means it is not just stuck in one place, it is not stagnant, it is constantly evolving. Okay. It influences the behavior of an individual. The personality of the individual, to a large extent, remains stable, but this does not mean that is unchanging. While remaining stable, it is also possible that personalities can change and grow. However, under certain conditions, the personality of an individual may stop growing. Okay. The very fact that one of the characteristics of the personality is dynamic shows, like as we keep growing, right? When a child is moving into adolescence, from adolescence, as the child moves to becoming a youth and then a man or a woman, right? So many things happen in life, right? The experiences, the learnings, the growth process, right? Of all that is will definitely influence the person either positively or negatively. So a positive influence will definitely help the person to become more dynamic, to be able to move further, to show signs of growth. And a negative experiences, right, that is influencing can also stagnate the person's growth. That is what they are saying. Concept of individual differences. Plato stated more than 2000 years ago, no two persons are born exactly alike, but each differs from the other in natural endowments, one being suited for one occupation and the other for another. Okay, so this doesn't really need any explanations. It is very self-explanatory. Individual difference psychology examines how people are similar and how they differ in their thinking, feeling, and behavior. So no two people are alike, yet no two people are unlike. So in the study of individual differences, we strive to understand ways in which people are psychologically similar, and particularly what psychological characteristics vary between people. In the Western psychology approach to individual differences, it is generally assumed that people vary on a range of psychological attributes. It is possible to measure and study these individual differences. Individual differences are useful for explaining and predicting behavior and performance. We can classify people psychologically according to their intelligence and personality characteristics. However, people are complex and much is left unexplained. There are multiple and often conflicting theories and evidence about individual difference in psychology. Let's look at some of the theories on concept of individual differences. Darwin suggested that the nature selects successful traits through the survival of the fittest. His cousin, Sir Francis Galton, concluded that he would apply the principle scientifically. And so he thought, why not measure human traits and then selectively breed superior people? He assumed human traits, everything from the height and beauty to intelligence and ability to personality traits such as even temperedness, were inherited. Modern psychology has formalized the study of individual differences over the last 100 years. Individual differences psychology is still young science and relatively recent development in modern psychology. There are still many debates and issues. Current knowledge will change and evolve, and it will continue to evolve as there is so much of advancement in every sphere of life. Individual differences occur due to interactions of genetic and environmental factors. We inherit certain characteristics from our parents through the genetic codes. The phenotype or the express forms of our characteristics depend on the contribution of the socio-cultural environment. What are the factors influencing personality? The development of personality of an individual takes place in a social cultural context. That is the biological factors. The biological factors are biogenic by nature and include those of hereditary, endocrine glands, physical condition, nervous systems, etc. Environmental factors refers to home, school, maturation and personality, early experience, success and failure. Cultural factors. People living in one culture often share similar practices, beliefs, and values. The child is expected to learn to behave in the manner expected by the culture. For instance, boys and girls are expected to show different sets of personality characteristics. The various occupational roles also are shaped by culture. When you are talking about the beliefs and values, like in our culture, both the boys and girls are expected to respect the elders. So some of the cultures, they respect by touching the feet. Some of the cultures respect by bowing down and taking the blessings. Or some cultures are even embracing or just with the folded hands. So it depends on what is the kind of belief, practices, and the value system the individual come from. So based on that, their cultural norms will be created, right? The various occupational roles are also shaped. Yeah. So that's a different set of personality characteristics are formed, right? Sometimes it is basically on the societal expectations. When society was evolved, right? In the initial stages, the men went out to work, the women worked at home, right? But now, slowly these patterns are also coming to a change because of the change in the scenario. Okay, psychological factors. Psychological factors play a big role in functioning of human behavior and development of one's personalities. Now, what are the psychological factors? Motives, acquired interest, attitudes, characters, intellectual capacities, right? Let me see if there are more. No, I think this is the last of the, yeah. So motives, motives are the general motivation that you and I have, right? If you are not motivated, we would not want to attend the class. If you are not motivated enough, we wouldn't want to, go to a gym or, take care of our body or do some yoga or some meditation. We need to have motivations, to be able to accomplish all that we are ever dreamed of, right? So psychological factors, if there are motives, if your motivation is high, you are able to accomplish a lot more things in your life. right? All that you ever dreamed of. Acquired interests. What are acquired interests? Acquired interests are that you have acquired over a period of time. It could be anything relating to your hobby. Acquired interest in learning music, acquired interest in playing an instrument, that acquired interest, and sometimes it can be within the personality also very beautifully. Some people are able to sketch, some people are able to do some painting, and some are able to do knitting, embroidery, cooking, all these aspects. Okay? Attitudes. This is a very important psychological factors because attitudes help us to reach high altitudes in life. Why do I say this? Because attitudes are the ones that determines us and puts us on the right track. If you have the right attitude in life, right, it will take us a very long distance in life, right? Attitude with gratitude, I will add. Okay. So, right attitude, what do you call it as a right attitude? For example, if I have to give you an example of what right attitude is all about. Now, maybe you and your friend, you have some differences, right? And you've fought and you all are not talking to each other. Okay. Now, when you are entering the college somewhere, your friend just meets with the accident or something. If you have the right attitude, right, we will immediately respond. Or if you see your friend is in a problem, right, the right attitude will push you to go and help. Put away all those previous differences, all the past, which is not important right at this moment, right? At this moment, you are looking at this person as a human who needs help, and you on humanity ground are reaching out to help, right? So that is the right attitude. Suppose you look at your friend having a fall, or you look at something, drastically wrong has happened, and still because you're collected all those past memories, because you're holding all that has happened, right, without letting go and holding on strongly, remembering everything, how she fought, what she said, right? And the anger rises, and then you say, let us suffer. Why should I go and help? This is a very wrong attitude. So, no matter how people are in their lives, it is their choice to be who they want to. But our attitude should always be right. We should always be on track because this right attitude will help you travel a long distance. Having a wrong attitude in life is like having a flat tire. You can't go far. You can't reach much. You can't achieve much. Okay? So that is what is meant by attitudes. And that's a very important psychological factor that plays a big role. It is the same attitude that will help you persevere. It will be the same factor that will help you be persistent. It will help you to stay in the same place strong and continue to do what you are doing in a committed way, in a consistent way. Right? So that is the kind of attitude we need to have. Right? The number D is character. We all know what character. We talk about character, right? Character versus personality ethics, right? So what is character? Character is something that is inbuilt, right? We have picked up all these qualities from the loved ones, from the family, from the extended circle, and also from experiences in life as we came out and moved around, right? So a character factor plays also an important role, right? Which will make you genuine, which will make you authentic, right? Which will also keep you mentally healthy and happy because you're an open person, flexible person, not very rigid, right? Because you are of a strong character. You have certain values, certain ethics to uphold, like honesty, right? Like integrity, like doing the right thing even when nobody is noticing, right? So all this will come under the character. Number E is intellectual capacities. What are intellectual capacities? It will be to each one of us as unique as we are. So our intellectual capacities need not be the same. It will always be as unique as the persons that we are. So when we learn to understand our intellectual capacities, our own capacities through a self-knowledge, through a self-awareness program, right? We are able to tap into that which we are very good at, that which we are able to do well, that which makes us happy when we do it, because it comes naturally to that person, right? Suppose if you are having, very good ear for music and you played so well, right? You don't have to make any effort because that is the intellectual capacity that you have. Or maybe you can study everything and remember, recall, and again reinvent, new ideas. That is your intellectual capacity. But there is somebody who has got a very different kind of a mind, right? Who are able to fix things, who are very creative, who are able to solve things. So, according to the nature of the person, according to the person, the different intellectual capacities are, present. So these are the factors in general that contributes, right, to the functioning of the human development in one's personality. Okay. So with this, we end. Okay. There are only 10 slides. Now, the lessons are very easy, right? The content has been written very well. At every end of your um, unit, there are check your progress, model answers, model examination questions, and then you have glossary, right? For you to understand what are the different meanings of those words. And then there are also further readings. Okay. So with this, I close unit 8 and unit 9. Today we are closing a little early. Yesterday we were actually running out of time. Okay. So I will not start the next unit because we will do that in the next class. Yeah, personality, theories of personality. Okay. The next one will be block 4. That will be the last block. And in the last block, we have personality, right? Personality, we have 9, 10, and 11. We have 3 blocks, right? In which we have introduction to personality, theories of personality, and then again we have Unit 11, theories of personality itself. Okay. So more or less, we have come to a close of this personality. No, we finished the block 4, right? Next week, we will be going into block 5. Okay, in block 4 only, we have finished unit 8 and 9, right? Next week, we will go to 10 and 11. Okay. So here we'll have all the details of the theories that are very popularly used, right? The trait theories, the other type theories. Then we have very specifically Skinner's theory. And then we have the Rogers humanistic theory, self theory, basic concepts, 19 propositions, the fully functioning theory, right? Then the source traits, surface traits, evolution of big five, types of dynamic theory, description of big five factors and facets of big five factors. Okay. So next week we will be doing this unit 10 and 11, right? So please go through your book because the language used is very simple and very well it has been explained, and you can compare it with the PowerPoint that I will give it to you. Now, today I will send yesterday's two, that is 6 and 7, no, 5 and 6, no, 6 and 7, yeah, 6 and 7, and today's 8 and 9, right? So I will send you all these PowerPoints. So you compare it with your reading material and check it out to see how much you are able to understand, right? And then if you are having any questions, not academic questions, not administrative questions, because I won't be able to solve, but anything related to the subject, you can give me in advance, right? Those who have mail, maybe send on mail or write it down and keep it in the next class. Maybe we'll be able to clarify whatever you want. Okay. You have anything to say? Since we finished early, I can give you some time because you're listening so much. And I am also, because I'm so particular that I don't want to leave the syllabus undone. I want to complete the syllabus. So that is why my speed is there. And we managed today. So if you have anything to state, you're most welcome. You can unmute and talk if you want, right? For those of you who don't know me, I'm Dr. Angela David, and I work as a psychological consultant at Osmania University, right? And I deal with general psychological issues of students. And I'm also into orientations and training, and also sometimes take these classes. Yeah, that's me. Why don't you all introduce yourself? Let me listen to you all. Why don't you introduce? Since we have another 9 minutes, why don't you introduce? I'll be glad to know you all. Nobody wants to introduce. Are you all there? Or am I talking to myself? Are you all there, students? Karishma, you are there? Deepti?
Ma'am, I'm here.
Yeah. Can you introduce yourself?
I'm Vinod Mishra,
Okay.
and professionally, I'm engineer in the Ministry of Defense,
Oh, wow. That's
electronics
great.
engineer.
How nice.
Thank you, ma'am.
Admire your passion for learning, wanting to learn.
Thank
Vinod
you.
Mishra, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
welcome. So glad to hear that. Working professional, yes.
yeah.
Good.
Thank you, ma'am.
Welcome. Anybody else wants to introduce yourself or you want to say anything? Most welcome. Silence. So I don't know whether you all got something out of this class.
No, ma'am, we got so many things, and moreover, especially trying want to mention that with this class only, I help to concentrate at least on studies.
Okay, very
Otherwise, we
good.
don't know when to start.
Yeah, very true, very true. So that is why this PowerPoint will give you a framework because more or less I covered the whole unit. So
Yes.
if you are missing anything also, it will get covered in the PowerPoint, right? And you
Yeah.
try to write in your own words. No examples, you can give your own words. And your book has given diagrammatic representations, which is very nice, right? So you can use one of the diagrams, to explain, to answer those questions. So then you'll be able to remember, right? Diagrams of how it is projected in your book, right?
Yeah.
If there's anything related to critical thinking or any other thing where you are given, especially if you want to answer about the process of memory, there are simple three diagrams, I mean three boxes, right? Encoding, storage, retrieval. And then you explain each one what it is, like what is encoding, what is storage, and what is retrieval, like that. So there are simple things that you can use. You are talking about classical conditioning, very easily you can just draw those four circles and write about, UCS, CS, conditional response, those
Yeah.
kind of things. So it will make you to remember easy also. So you don't have to leave any questions because you don't know. And
And
then
even
some,
even in personality, ma'am, we have so many things we can write with our own words.
yes, you can. See, when you're talking about these characteristics and all, no, there's simple language only used. So you associate that with a few of the examples, and then you can just write down about it. Yeah, very
Ma'am,
good. Yeah.
can you just guide us some important questions, especially that essay type of questions?
Actually, you see, in every unit, you have questions already given, right? If
Yeah.
you really want to know these important question, you should go toward the previous papers. Last
Okay.
2-3 years papers, you just check. I don't have because I'm not part of for me and this one.
Okay. Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
setting up papers and all is not my call. So I may not be able to, yeah. So you see the previous question papers. If your friends, anybody has, just circulate among yourself, help each other, motivate each other, right? As long as you are there. If you are even asked the questions about, methods of measuring memory, right? Easily you can just put four dabbas, like four rectangular shapes. and write about recall method, recognition method, relearning or savings method or redefining method, and talk about each one, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, somebody has Karishma writes, ma'am, kindly share previous year question papers, SEM 2 if you have, just to see the questions asked. Sorry, ma, Karishma, I don't have because I teach so many other people also. I don't keep any of the question papers with me. Right? I don't have actually because I'm not part of setting these question papers. Okay. The best thing I will tell you, read up everything. Okay, so that you should be able to write whatever comes. Don't leave any questions unanswered. Something kuch to likho, right? Write a few lines, whatever. Okay. Like this classical conditioning and all, maybe long answers. It might come up with. So with the diagram and all, you can aram se write, right? Same thing about process of the memory and all, with the drawing and all, you can write. So in every this one, and also some of the methods, right? Some of the methods of how you can remember memory, like SQRR method, right? That also you can just put the diagram, just put that abbreviations and write the mnemonics, right? So all that you can do. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So all the very best to you. Nice interacting with you. Have a restful Sunday. God bless you. I shall see you again next Sunday and complete my syllabus. Okay.
Okay, ma'am. Thank
Okay.
you. Thank
Bye.
you very much, ma'am.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.